to figure out ultimately what is.
It's still a mystery as to why it took them. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Primetime Crime Live. I'm Lauren Conlon, and with me, as always, my lovely co-host, Jarrett Ferrantino. Hi, Jarrett.
Good morning, Lauren. Good morning, everyone. It's rather early for Primetime Crime and Murder and Mayhem, but hey, Murder and Mayhem is 24/7. What could you say, right?
Yeah, that's so true. We're having coffee with everyone this morning. I chose an iced coffee. This is actually my third coffee. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, good. This should be a
hot,
good episode then.
Switch to ice. What? Yeah, exactly. Wait, you drink coffee, right? I don't even think I knew that.
Oh, yeah, quite a bit.
You drink yours black, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, I knew it. Hi, Taryn. So I'm a black coffee girl if it's hot. If it's iced, I need to load it up with the most disgusting stuff ever. My chat knows this, like chocolate, half and half. I'm so disgusting, but it's if it's hot, just black, totally. Hi, Sheila. So, Jarrett, what's going on?
Well, we're heading to New York today. We're filming the rest of our part of season 2 for Crime Nation. So I'm leaving shortly, which is why I'm still in my home office.
Yeah.
And we'll be in New York for the next 2 days. We're going to shoot some, I don't know if it's live stuff, but like some behind the scenes stuff. So
yes, we are. Hi, Forrest. Hi, Sue. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Sinead. Oh, hi, Allie. My sister joined. So Jarrett, I just want to warn you, the UN is in session and it's heinous. Traffic is so bad here. I'm not kidding. You need to avoid the east side. I probably should talk to you about this offline, but you'll never get here.
Well, we'll give you a call. We're leaving early. Our first meeting's not till tonight, so I think.
Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. Fine. So, guys, we have a lot to talk about. So I have been covering this one case on the Outlier. I brought it up to Jarrett and I was like, we have to go over this because I think personally that this case is going to be huge, and it kind of reminds me of the Kansas moms case in a way, only because there's so much we don't know. And I think that so much is going to come out at trial. Jarrett, do you agree with that so far?
Yeah, so just generally, that seems to be a new phenomenon, starting with Idaho, where a lot of information is being held close to the vest up to the time of trial. Now, look, I was prosecuting cases for a very long time. The only information I would shield from the public was the identity of a confidential informant, maybe some personal identification information if somebody's social security number was in something. Also, funding that goes from a public defender. If a public defender is asking for a certain type of funding, for example, for their client, those records are sealed. But I got to be honest, this phenomenon of every filing being sealed, the arrest has taken place. There's typically, in Pennsylvania and in Idaho, you have an affidavit of probable cause, which sets forth in great detail, and in Oklahoma as well, great detail, the state's theory behind the case, the facts of the case, and then little by little, as in Oklahoma, as in Idaho, as things get filed, more information or more detail comes to light. In a case like this, it's rare that all of this information is still held so close to the vest. A lot of it's because it was a grand jury presentment and that information is not made public, but pretrial filings are usually public. So that's kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that in my podcast. I called, emailed, and I've spoken to 2 people at the Fairfax County clerk's office, which is Virginia. If anyone is not familiar, this case is Fairfax County, and actually it's the same courthouse that Depp versus Heard, that trial took place in. And it actually, for not Brendan Banfield, but for Juliana, the au pair, it's the same judge. I believe Brendan Banfield has a different judge, but if these names don't make sense to you, don't worry, they will in a minute. But I asked for the probable cause affidavit. I've asked for the most recent. I didn't want to go all the way back for Juliana, but I said, can you send me the most recent pretrial motions? I had the case number, And they're like, nope, all you get is the indictment. And the indictment has nothing, Jarrett, right? The indictment literally has the charges and that's it.
Right. So, well, we're going to talk about the facts, right? We'll tell
Yes,
everybody.
I can go over the facts, but I just wanted to I don't know. I was confused. I guess not confused about the indictment, but I'm like, this is just not really telling me much.
Well, it's so basically the au pair and the husband are alleged to have conspired together to kill the wife and have set up what would be a BDSM fetish guy come into the house to look like.
Yes, I can tell the story after.
So tell the story. Tell the story,
okay.
And then what we know though, and then I'll talk about why the charges are as they are.
Yes, because I need Jarrett to go over. If you heard my podcast on the Outlier, I was like, we need Jarrett to break this down because this is odd. But I will just top level because literally all we have is top level. So Brendan and Christine Banfield, young couple, lived in Fairfax County, they lived in Herndon, Virginia, which is a DC suburb, population around 20,000 people, nice community, nice area. They had a 4-year-old child, or she's older now, and they had a live-in Brazilian au pair. Everybody in Brendan and Christine's neighborhood said they were a wonderful family. Brendan was a huge football fan. He worked for the IRS. Christine was a pediatric nurse who loved her job. She used to organize neighborhood bike rides for the kids, just very well liked. I went through Christine's Facebook. I mean, she seemed to really love her family and her husband, which is just the most tragic part of this whole thing is that
I gotta stop you there though. Those Facebook posts where I love these Facebook posts where somebody proclaims how much they love their wife or their husband. As an attorney, I usually get a message from those people within minutes of that post. I need to talk to you.
Yeah, but I don't.
Something like nobody's
totally
proclaiming to the world. Look. Those are very suspicious posts. You know what I mean?
Those type of posts are suspicious. I agree, and I've said the same thing. The longer a spousal birthday post or the longer like a Valentine's Day post, the more the marriage is in trouble. However, what I mean is there are just photos of her that seem like she is just embracing her child, genuinely loving her child. And the one post that I found from Christine where she just talks about that she just loves Brendan, it wasn't like that. It was basically like she was at a wedding and she was reminded about how much she loves her husband. And I thought it came from the heart because she didn't. And again, this was right after they got married. I went deep. It wasn't like she did this all the time, but that's not really.
I get it. And, you know, like, and I think of like Shanann Watts and the Chris Watts case, like her life very much played out on Facebook and
she had a diary on, like, she's a
What's
vlogger.
That?
She's a vlogger, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, we are so now trained and have seen so many times where that face you show the public versus that face behind the scenes are just diametrically opposed things. And that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like, I'm always suspect of that because
I agree with you. I hear what you're saying. In this case, it's a little different. And I think that if you are a woman and you were to go to her Facebook and you were to see this, and by the way, her Facebook, I can't see the whole profile. You know, it's like, it's not necessarily public, but I think that a lot of people would agree with me. Christine gives off a vibe that she's not showy. Again, I could be wrong, of course, looking from the outside in. So anyway,
I could garner that not being a woman. But I think if you have to go proclaim your love for your significant other to the world, that's suspect. I mean, that person should know you care, how you feel, and you need not put it on a bill.
I totally get that. So I take it back. That's not what she does. That was just me making a comment. But let's not focus on that because I got a different vibe from her. So they seemed like a wonderful couple looking from the outside in. They had this au pair. It's very common to have an au pair, live an au pair. You know, in New York, I see a lot of them, in Connecticut as well. And so I don't know exactly what was happening in the marriage leading up to this point. However, the defense has alleged that they did not have a good marriage, Brendan and Christine, and they would be cheating on each other. I'm saying this based on reports. I don't want to drag Christine at all. Might not be true, and this is what the defense attorneys are alleging. So the morning of February 20, I believe it's the 24th of 2023.
February 24th.
Yeah, so this morning, Brendan said he was going to work. Christine was home, and she had bought tickets for the zoo for the au pair and their 4-year-old daughter. They leave, they go to the zoo, and Juliana forgets their lunches. So she's like, let me go back home. And this is about 8 a.m. at this point. So according to Juliana, she sees this man enter the home. This man turns out to be Joseph Ryan, who I believe the prosecution at this point, this man is a stranger. He was, we'll get there to exactly who he is. The defense is alleging that this man was known to Christine. So he's in the house, and the au pair calls Brendan and says, yo, someone's in the house. You need to come home. So he comes home, basically, and he goes upstairs. And according to him, when he goes upstairs, he sees Joseph Ryan stabbing his wife in the neck. So he takes out his service weapon. He shoots him. And Juliana comes running up, but not before she brings the daughter, the 4-year-old daughter, to the basement. Not before that. So he says to her, to the au pair, to Juliana, go get the gun in the safe and shoot him. I mean, I'm still trying to make sense of this. Like, you shot him once. Was that your last bullet? Or were you like, oh shit, that's my service weapon, right? We don't know. So she gets the gun in the safe, which, by the way, has been reported to be inside the bathroom, which is also weird. And this Glock that she used, we find out after the fact that Brendan Banfield bought this Glock a few weeks earlier. And also a few weeks earlier, he had taken the au pair to a shooting range. Okay. Circumstantial, but yeah, makes sense. So they call 911 apparently 10 minutes after the shooting, which is red flag number 1. And then this is very unclear because they have not disclosed this. And Jarrett, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing something, but there was a series of 911 calls where Juliana hangs up, gives the phone to Brendan, and then he clarifies. Very odd. So what happens then is, she's taken to the police station with the 4-year-old daughter. Brendan is being spoken to by police, and they don't make an arrest. This is February until October of 2023, when they go and finally arrest Juliana for the second degree murder of Joseph Ryan, not the stabbing of Christine Banfield. When they go to arrest Juliana, girlfriend has moved into the master bedroom. Her clothes are in the master bedroom closet, and her and Brendan are in picture frames in the room. I mean, so freaking cliche. I can't even take it. So 570 days go by, and still no arrest for the murder of Christine Banfield. And recently, last week, they finally had enough evidence to arrest Brendan Banfield in both the murders of his wife and Joseph Ryan. So I left a little bit out, but I'm going to just really quick watch Joseph.
The parts you left out are going to become relevant to our discussion.
Right. Well, that's
big ticket items.
The one part I left out, which is the biggest twist of this entire thing, was the fetish website that the defense is alleging Christine set up this account on a fetish website. She was planning this BDSM session with Joseph Ryan at 8 a.m., you guys, 8 a.m. Because aren't you super horny at 8 a.m.? Sorry. But literally, she's planning this session, and he's coming over because she, lured him over for this session. And the fetish account was Christine's picture. And that picture of Christine just happened. The au pair sent herself the picture of Christine. So
if this isn't clear to everybody watching exactly what happened, the second I heard every one of those facts, let me break it down for you. Allegedly, the Brendan was sleeping with Julianne. They wanted to get rid of Christine. So they set up this elaborate plot where she was going to be bringing someone there, that they were going to make it look like that person was attacking her. He was going to pretend to go to work, but not go far, respond back to the house, shoot that person. He then decides, go get that other gun, Julianne. So you're in this with me too. By the way, they never got to the zoo. They went back and got their lunch. And this whole thing set the table for what ultimately will be their defense. However, here's the problem, okay? The problem becomes if you cannot corroborate that defense with the computer data, that Christine was never communicating with these folks, that the times that anyone was communicating on that fetish website would have corresponded with maybe Christine being at work, her being elsewhere, but clearly putting Julianne in a position where, or Brandon in a position where they could have been having those conversations. Like you said, the email. What we're hearing first is a re-victimization of Christine. Now the defense is going to allege that the version of events.
Wait, can you back up? You're blurry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, better.
So the version of events that have been put forth by the defendants is actually true, they're going to claim, and they're going to ride that horse all the way through this trial. Now,
disgusting.
Yeah, and again, if it's not true, that's pretty disgusting. But the other, so the first motion that we were able to learn about is they're trying to suppress the statements that Julianne gave to the police. They took her out of that scene and the little girl. Of course, it was a chaotic scene. She could not go back into the house. It's February 24th in Virginia. It's cold. They don't leave her outside. They say, come to the police station. She says, do I have to? Can I go back in the house? They're saying it's safe there. You have a place you can sit. They didn't put her in an interrogation room. They put her in a room where they would put victims or witnesses. And you may be saying, well, why is that relevant? Because she was being treated as a victim / witness at that point. She was not in custody. Well, that would be what the prosecution's claiming. They'll say she was there from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. that night. And the defense is going to say she was getting pounded on, interrogated all that time.
That is what they're saying. That's exactly what they're saying.
They may say she was not Mirandized, even though nobody was buying her story. The prosecution's going to have to say, look, based on what Julianne and Brendan told us, we weren't looking at them as suspects. We were looking at this situation until it bore out when we reviewed everything else to be something entirely different. They were treated as victims / witnesses. If their statements were gleaned from that treatment, those statements would be protected. If it could be shown that she was a suspect at that point, okay, and nothing would suggest that in the immediate time frame, then if she was not Mirandized and she was put there for all that time, those statements could be in jeopardy. So that's really going to come down to how it played out, and we just don't know at this point.
Right. And so, Jarrett, what you said, what's happening now is that the defense is saying they don't want any of what she said. They don't want body cam footage from the police. They don't want any of that to be admissible at all. So they're fighting to get all of that thrown out. And a judge should rule on that fairly soon because Juliana's trial is in November. Now, here are some possible theories or possible, I guess, situations. I mean, I have thought about this. It is possible, and I don't necessarily think that this is the case, Jarrett. I really don't, but I want to put it out there just in case that Brendan Banfield did this all on his own and that maybe he just took Juliana to the shooting range as a date. My husband and I have been to shooting ranges for dates, and he had this whole thing planned out, which is why Juliana said, oh, he told me he was going to work when he never actually went to work that day. And he kind of said, go get the gun in the safe. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she just did it. And this is all on him. I don't necessarily. Oh, wait.
Here's the response to that. Okay. She was in a position. So remember, there are no coincidences in this.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
So start with that assumption. she was in a position to return to the house for an odd reason. That's number one. Number two, she's the one that called Brendan to come back because a man showed up. Okay. She was the lookout. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got that. She's the one who emailed herself the picture of Christine.
But they could argue all this, right, Jarrett? They could still argue all this to be like, well, yeah, she did that because she was trying to set her up to look bad. They could, and again, I'm not saying that I think.
Yeah, I
like,
agree. But I agree. It's just here's the thing. And I know I've said this before, but it bears repeating. What's always shocking to me is when you have two individuals or more, like Kansas moms, that aren't criminals, okay? That aren't career criminals, don't have prior records. I mean, Brendan Banfield was an IRS criminal investigator, criminal agent. Yeah. Guy's a federal agent, okay? For all intents and purposes. You have Julianne, who is a young au pair. They felt comfortable enough to have her caring for their 4-year-old daughter. All of a sudden, these two law-abiding people come together and conspire a brutal, just wild murder. And they've been if you believe what the prosecution is putting out there, if you believe that gun was purchased to effectuate the murder, if you believe that fetish profile was set up to commit the murder, this is something that was not an instant. It was planned over weeks, all because they loved one another and want to have a life together. Why divorce courts exist, I don't know why people don't.
I don't get it either. And I said I was trying to figure out if she had some kind of life insurance policy, and there might be a gag order on family members because I've tried to reach out to get more information. Granted, I've found emails running background searches that they might not be accurate, and I've been reaching out via Facebook. But I'm with you. Why not just get a freaking divorce? This is the most elaborate, bizarre. I mean, what's wrong with you?
Here's another point too. Here's another point that's worth noting.
Yeah.
Those pictures that they're now together and Julianne moved into the master bedroom, for example. Yeah. Right? Okay. Now, if the prosecution's theory was they're in love, they need Christine out of the way, and they were going to have this life together, that evidence, even though it's after the crime, this post-crime conduct and behavior, that's coming in. Like people would say, oh, it's after the fact. How are you getting that in? You're getting it in because their whole theory is this was, and we'll talk about the charges and why this fits in. The charges are he killed. So, for example, Brandon killed Christine with a deadly weapon, right? Shot Ryan with the firearm. Then there was the premeditated murder, okay? So when you say you're committing this premeditated murder, you're going to want to know you intended to do this over a period of time because you had this love for Julianne. Motive is not required to be proven, but it's going to factor into that level of intent and how it began weeks ago or however long before. And the conduct after the murder is then relevant. So that's coming in. When a jury sees au pair moves into master bedroom, au pair shot, why they had to shoot this Ryan twice, once in the head, once in the chest. Once they see all this, to me, it's not one that's going to be, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to connect the dots on this.
I mean, Jarrett, can you imagine, just looking from the outside in, your wife or my husband gets savagely murdered by a stranger in our house, and months later, you're in your master bedroom with another woman?
Probably that's the crime scene. So
100%.
So that's the other thing. Like, God, you have no conscience at all? Like, as awful as that is. So it's a terrible situation. And jurors are going to see that. That is a very human, take the law out of it. Okay. That is a very visceral, human, emotional component to this case that is going to be like a bomb going off, and it ain't a love bomb like those. It's a bad situation, and it's going to require, they have a lot of explaining to do, and they don't have to explain anything to defense, but good luck explaining all this stuff.
And I'm thinking in my head, Brendan probably said, oh, it's not going to look bad that we did this because Christine was cheating anyway with this Joseph Ryan having this BDSM. I mean, that's how sick this guy is. Oh, we set it up so it will be fine. Like, she was cheating on me. So why is it so bad if, whatever. And
But
I
he's
also
got to
have,
understand, let's assume, okay, if he is that sick, he's not stupid. I mean, he understands how investigations work. He knows that they're going to be able to tell. There's a rumor, or it's been reported, that he didn't go to work. He went to a nearby McDonald's and came
yeah,
back, right?
yeah.
So look, the phone technology is going to be able to track how far Julianne got, how far Brandon got, whether or not it was actually Christine. Once they get Christine's phone or her laptop, they're going to be able to recreate what was going on around the same time as those fetish posts were being made, and those communications were being made too. So that's not that tall of an order to kind of figure out who exactly was doing those things. So
Totally
it's
agree.
going to be a huge technology case. There's, hey, and it's not a whodunit. It's clear what happened here. It's a question of why they did it and how they did it.
Yeah, and it's really mind-blowing. I think you're right. During the trial, we're going to see some text messages. Where was there this hatred between Brendan and Christine where he just really wanted her dead? Was there this, what was going on behind closed doors? And I really believe that the 10 minutes that they waited, I mean, I have a feeling like Brendan was wiping that knife and taking Joseph Ryan's hands, rubbing it on there, pulling, wiping. I mean, they obviously weren't cleaning gun residue because
that's another huge point. So in
Yeah.
addition to the technological evidence, they're going to be able to show how the scene was staged, and very likely badly staged. So it's literally a locked room murder mystery. That's what it is. And it's like Clue. You know who the participants are. It's just a matter of, was it the professor with the candlestick in the library? I mean, so so you're going to need, if I was putting this case together, deep dive into the text, deep dive into their online technological footprints, deep dive into their phone records. I would have a blood spatter expert on that scene. You can bet a blood spatter expert, free advertising for a guy named Paul Irwin Kish out of Corning, New York. He's one of the best. Runs this facility. He could come in there and tell, where was the bloodletting event? What direction was the knife? What direction was the spatter from the body? Is it consistent with the final resting places? Things of that nature.
Yeah.
In addition to blood spatter people, you're just going to have gun people who are going to say this shooting didn't happen this way. This shooting came after the death. So it is going to be a wild case to put on as a prosecutor, and the defense is really bound by the version of events their clients have put forth, but they got to answer for what's ultimately coming out in the scene and that testimony and the technology.
Yes.
So
And I'm just clarifying for the chat, he's not DEA, he's IRS.
He's IRS.
Yeah. And Taryn, the different guns, I don't, like I said, he fired the first shot with his IRS service weapon, and the second shot was with the Glock that he bought for the family a few weeks earlier. And that's why I was speculating where he was probably like, oh, maybe he only had one bullet left. I don't know. I mean,
it makes zero sense. He wanted her in this thing. She had a gun there. She didn't tell him to go.
But did you read? I think I've read conflicting reports here where one report said that he was already dead after the first shot, and then another report
in the head. It
says
says Brendan shot him in the head. At least the reports I'd seen.
Yeah,
so and that Julianne shot him in the chest. So very likely.
It's Juliana, by the way. You're so funny. It's Juliana.
Oh, Julianne is the actress,
okay.
right?
What?
Julianne. There's a Julianne Margulies who's an actress.
Oh, yeah, I know. And I keep saying her name like that because it's so funny.
She was in, she was on The Sopranos. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to pull up this indictment here because I found it really confusing at first because there's 4 different murder charges. And
I know why you're confused, and I have the answer, I think.
Yes. Okay. So Jarrett, could you just go over this for us?
So look, if anytime you see multiple counts of murder for one murder or two, let's say you have 4 counts of murder here, You're always looking for, okay, what is the nature of that charge? Why is there a second charge? So in this case, the alleged murderers are charged with killing with a deadly weapon, and then they're charged with killing 2 people within 3 years, and then they're charged with premeditated murder. So if you look at it that way, every one of those things add another element to the charge. They're different kinds of charges. So one thing you can do in Pennsylvania, and I've been criticized for doing it this way, I would just charge as an open count of murder. Okay, it would say you're charged with. We have a general criminal homicide charge,
like second degree, like
but it wouldn't say that much. It would just say general homicide.
Okay.
And then I would go in and I would have a theory of the case, most times first degree murder. And then the jury would be instructed on all versions of murder. You can do it that way in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
In the Commonwealth of Virginia, how they prefer to be charged is with specificity. If you want to charge the deadly weapon charge, put it in there. The multiple victims within 3 years charge, put it in there. It needs to be pled out so the jury can be instructed on that, and you could offer evidence in support of it. So they're not really alternative theories. All 3 you could be guilty of. You could be guilty of premeditating, deadly weapon, and killing both within that 3-year time frame, which I believe carries a life sentence no matter what.
Okay.
You're convicted of.
Okay. And sorry, this is random. I know we're on Brendan's indictment, but before I forget to ask you this, and maybe this sounds dumb and I apologize, but Juliana, she's not an American citizen. She's from Brazil and she just has like a work visa, I'm assuming, to be an au pair. At one point, I think that they remanded her without bail because she tried to get her passport renewed or something, and they thought maybe she was going to flee to Brazil. How do you keep someone here that's not necessarily a citizen, and how are you able to charge them as a citizen of the United States, I guess?
Well, you can't have one without the other. So the charge keeps them here.
Okay.
So that charge is a detainer and it will keep you here. So that basically, otherwise there's an incentive for people from another country, north, south, come in, commit a crime, and they can get out of here and ride out on the fact that they're not a citizen. So
yeah,
but it's a good question, because it's a question that prosecutions are wrestling with. Not so much as can you be charged. You can be charged. If you're here, you're going to get arrested. You could be held. Now, the fact that you may have an ICE detainer or some federal issues to deal with, unless you're some ambassador from a country with some kind of diplomatic immunity, you could be charged here. The question then becomes, can you be extradited from a country if you go back? Can you be extradited from here? These are issues that we're seeing more frequently in Pennsylvania, New York. And as the immigration crisis in this country increases, you're going to continue to wrestle with these things. In addition to that, I know maybe we're going down a rabbit hole, but language barriers, just things that small police departments never thought they'd be wrestling with.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's people in the chat, I didn't really think about this, but Taryn asked, wow, an IRS agent has a service weapon, and some other people, Sinead.
He's a criminal. Yes, he's a criminal IRS agent. So his
criminal investigation.
He is in the arm of actual arresting, picking up defendants. So yeah, they would have, essentially he's like an ATF DEA agent imbued with the charges that are tax in nature. So he's a full-on agent of the federal government.
Wow. And there were reports that he drove an Uber as well. So maybe they don't pay very well.
A lot of police officers moonlight.
Okay.
And the reality is, if you're living in a house raising kids, these folks lived well. They appeared to live well. And Christine was a nurse, but and they have an au pair, which isn't cheap. Right?
No, actually, au pairs are cheap. That is the misconception. They are the biggest thing. Yeah, au pairs, they have a cap. They're paid $250 a week max, but I think the big thing is getting them over to the US. There's like a flat fee. It's not that much, but the actual au pair is no, they live with you. They just eat all your food. I mean, it's not that.
In
That's
my
it.
neighborhood, if you said you had an au pair, you'd get a beating.
Really?
If you use the word au pair in Pittston, Pennsylvania,
Oh, that's really funny. See, in the city,
like I have an au pair. Oh, what do you
different.
think? You're a big shot?
No, so it's so funny you say that because in the city, if you have an au pair, people kind of are like, oh, okay, because they have nannies, which are a lot more expensive. Nannies are more experienced. Au pairs are like 20 years old and they're kind of like they party on their days off. Like it's kind of whatever. But anyway, okay. So can you just, go back to these charges and can you just go through what each charge is?
Sure. So if you look at, okay, so
go to the next page.
So the first one is Brendan used a firearm in the commission of a felony. Okay, that's number one. Go back.
Sorry.
Go back.
Yes. Okay.
Go back. Okay, so the grand jurors say he used a firearm. The grand jurors, and then it says use of a firearm on the commission of a felony, which is the murder. Charges of aggravated murder, he used the firearm in the commission of a felony. And then go down. I'm just having a little trouble seeing it.
Yeah, you know what?
You read them. You read you read them on your.
I did. I can say them for you right now.
Yeah, please do, and I'll break them down.
So it's funny. Sorry, it's not showing all 4 pages on this.
No, I only have the firearm one.
Hold on. There we go. Sorry.
Okay,
there
so
it is.
Count one.
There it is.
Premeditation. That was the one we talked about. Okay.
Yes. And then count 2. It's with premeditation as part of.
So count 1 is Brendan killed Christine as part of the same act. He also killed Joseph.
Yes.
Premeditation. So let's go. So that one is 2 murders. Same act or transaction. That's 2 murders in one.
Yep.
That's obviously that one will carry the stiffest sentence if he's convicted. The next one is count 2.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Count 2.
It's the same
one. So
same thing.
So 1, but their names are reversed.
Yes, names are reversed.
So 1 is the murder of Christine. 2 is the murder of Joseph.
Okay. Why reverse their? Is that just different counts?
Because there's an enhancement if there's more than 1 victim.
Okay.
So it's the primary. Count 1 is primary for killing Christine in the same transaction he killed Joseph. Count 2 is primary for killing Joseph in the same transaction he killed Christine. So there's an enhancement and an aggravator there.
Okay, got it.
More than 1 victim.
There's
count 3. He killed Christine within the same 3-year period as killing Joseph. So it's more than 1 murder within 3 years could carry life in Virginia. Same thing for count 4. So those are the things we talked about. So
okay.
Count 5 is use the firearm. So all of these, he could be guilty of all 5. They're not pleading them in the alternative necessarily. They're not saying he either shot her or stabbed her, or he killed Joseph, or he killed Christine. They're saying he killed both, and he did so with a firearm, and he did so within 3 years. So all of them he could be guilty of.
Wow. And he's facing life without parole. That's what he is facing.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let me pull up. And Afton, did they choose a fetish site to make police/jurors think badly of Christine? Well, sure, but that was also just allegedly, Jarrett, part of their plan to carry out the murder of Christine. So
well, just in case we're not clear, the fetish site was actually used to communicate with Joseph, who thought he was coming there for some kind of dalliance with Christine, that involved, God knows, like BDSM or something. So this guy comes in.
They were going to blame, him on murdering Christine. So he was the fall guy, this innocent guy who just wanted to get off. I mean, let's be honest.
God only knows what he wanted, but
that's true. But
the defense don't think they won't. They're gonna beat the shit out of this guy. He's gonna be.
They are.
a real freak in the eyes of
Well,
everybody. You know,
and
that's
I don't want to victim shame him, but he is a bit of a rap sheet. I feel horrible. I'm not victim shaming him, but he does have a rap sheet.
yeah. Well, and again, you can bet that version. They have to try to make that as likely the scenario as possible.
Yeah.
So they're really gonna, if they're beating up on Christine, you can bet they're gonna be going after Joseph.
And like I said, I mean, it really is like murdering the victim all over again when you're doing this to her. And that's why I'm just, oh, sorry, I just inhaled a piece of my hair. That was a first. No, that's why I think I'm just so beyond. You take vows with this person, you have a child with this person, and Brendan Banfield allegedly was okay with his child growing up thinking that her mother was murdered by a man that she was having a sexual escapade with outside of her marriage. That is
but, I
beyond.
mean, at that point, the last thing you're thinking about is how your daughter's going to perceive this.
That is,
you know,
so
I mean, it's like it's one selfish act after another.
And Forrest, totally. Maybe he did because he has access to, different systems. Sorry for anyone listening. Forrest asked, could the husband have known about the male victim's rap sheet and chose him because of that history? Possibly. And Jarrett, this is just,
I think that, well, let me, so Forrest, that's a good point. But if Brendan was looking up Joseph Ryan's rap sheet, there's going to be a footprint of that.
Oh,
you can't just look up somebody unless he knew him by reputation. But the reality, I think, is he was trying to get this would-be John, would-be BDSM guy to come into the picture. He'd be the third party that's introduced into the home with bad intentions inside. He's killed. So the fact that he has a criminal record for us may be something that was a convenience and value added.
Right. Well, this is, and I can pull up and just I don't think his crimes were, I think they were drug related. They weren't terrible, but I'll look that up. But Juliana, this is her warrant of arrest and her indictment is on the last page. Maybe I'll skip them. This is not anything. Okay, there it is. Let me just make sure it's just 2 counts. So count 1, Jarrett, if you want to go over that.
So she killed, so she did unlawfully and feloniously murder Joseph. She's said to have shot Joseph. And what's count 2?
Count 2 is, there we go. Firearm,
I think. Firearm. So that firearm is an aggravator and another. So if you look at that statute, not to get too lawyerly, but that's the firearm violation, 53.1, 2-53.1. So.
Okay. Those 2 counts. So is that, I thought it was second degree murder. Does it say that? Am I on the first?
It's felon. So feloniously kill. That may be their felony murders. And if I don't, and again, I apologize if it appears like I don't know this. They're different in every state.
Right.
So second degree murder in Pennsylvania is felony murder. Like for example, a robbery or an arson. First degree is intentional murder, and third is all others. So
okay, so feloniously would technically mean second degree murder.
Virginia has a pretty like an extensive breakdown with firearm enhancement, multiple victim enhancement, multiple victims within 3 years, and Juliana and Brendan touched a couple of bases here. She is not charged as harshly as I'm wondering now that Brendan is charged. Will Juliana's charges be enhanced because? But again, she is not alleged to have killed Christine.
Right. No, she's not. So,
so there's not even a conspiracy. There's really not even a conspiracy charge here, which is. Isn't
that strange? I mean, I feel like that is strange, and I don't know why. I don't know. I guess there's so much that I want to know about this case. And I know that obviously we've all watched, or not, I shouldn't say obviously, but many of us watched Depp versus Heard. So we know that it's most likely going to be filmed in this courtroom because it's allowed to be filmed in Virginia. But I'm very anxious to get this trial going. And I had the exact date written down. It's November. I believe it's the middle of November. I'll get the exact date. But If anyone has anything else they want to say about this case, like I said in my last podcast, I had said if anybody has any information out there, please, you can talk to me on or off the record. I'm trying to make sense of this. So before the trials start, I can, I guess, be a little bit better with my coverage, just have some more context behind what was going on.
That's as much that's out there, though.
Yeah.
I mean, take the internet speculation out. I mean, legitimately sourced reporting, that's pretty much everything that's out there.
Exactly. And that's it. And I've reached out to Christine's friends, Juliana's. I mean, I'm very curious, but again, I do feel like a lot of close friends or family members, Jarrett, might have a gag order and they're not allowed to talk, right?
Well, there's that. And then I think there's just a great hesitancy. I'm sure people, loved ones and friends are just torn up over these things, and
I know.
I'm sure they knew Brandon. I'm sure they knew Juliana too. It's like,
yeah, I know. And Sue, lesson to women, never hire a pretty au pair. I mean, I don't know.
You read the first sentence of this case, and you're like, I know where this is going.
No, it's the most cliche.
Not that it's funny, but it's like, it's, the perfect marriage, the perfect couple, the nice house. Yeah, here we go.
Yep. No, I know. Well, let's transition right now, unless anyone has anything else to say about Sarah Boone. So everybody's favorite, Sarah Boone, she, her jury selection is set to begin October 7th. And that case is out of Winter Park, Florida. I know a lot of people are following that.
Maybe the judge said he might give their lawyer another week to prepare.
So, okay.
So
Jarrett was talking about this last time, about how if this lawyer doesn't necessarily get more time, this could be grounds for an appeal at a certain point because of, certain stipulations, whatever. So now you're telling me, Jarrett, that the judge said, okay, you might get another week.
Yeah, I like this judge is just not having it. So it's going to be grounds for an appeal, but the judge has done a good job of papering the record. Like his denial of a continuance, is great. It's like,
really?
He goes through, you asked this, you said this, you had this lawyer, you had this lawyer. So he knows months from now, years from now, a court will be looking at whether or not this lawyer had adequate time to prepare. So, and you know that. I mean, so especially with Boone, she's going to file this thing pro se probably. So here's the curveball.
Okay.
We're going with plan B. Now it's a self-defense case. Okay. She originally.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So unintentional to self-defense. Great point. When you say self-defense, couple of things. You admit you killed the person. That's number one. Mm-hmm. That's off the table. It's like, I did this. So everything that the prosecution is going to show, and the way to successfully defend these cases is you agree with as much of the prosecution's case as possible. Yeah. Yes, I did kill him. Here's why. Okay. Yeah. So in Florida, you don't have a duty to retreat, so that's off the table. The question then becomes, would a reasonable person in Boone's shoes have believed they were in danger while he's pleading for his life?
Oh my God.
He's suffocating, zipped in, essentially locked in a suitcase and died. Mm-hmm. She could have gone to a deli, ordered lunch, ordered dinner, then went to the police department and said, hey, go let my boyfriend or my boyfriend out of the suitcase.
Yep.
So self-defense, this judge he basically said to the defense lawyer, you're aware that this has been a claim of unintentional murder. You're going with self-defense now. How are you planning on articulating that? Where did we go right instead of left here, or left instead of right? And, look, I've encountered lawyers that try to be cute like this. Believe it or not, there's some crazy lawyers out there, and they see their case one way, and they see it as an opportunity to they're going to go in there and say, they're going to marry two concepts. She was so compromised from the abuse, okay? Mm-hmm. And this is not me saying
I get it.
Believe me,
Yep.
I've seen it.
Okay.
She was so compromised from the abuse that she made an assessment of the situation that she was in danger, remained in danger from him, so much so she could not arrange for him to be removed from that suitcase.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
It's hard to even say what they're going to say, let alone buy that nonsense. It's hard. I can't even articulate it. Like, I know what he's trying to say. She was so compromised, she had no choice but to defend herself and defend herself with deadly force.
Jarrett, let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you. Let's pretend that you're her defense attorney, okay? I'm assuming this guy is smart enough to go through everything, including her interrogation with police. That was, I played this on a podcast. That is pretty interesting because she kind of was like, I didn't mean to. I didn't realize it. I didn't, she says it. So why would he? But I guess that's my question, Jarrett. Why would this guy listen to her saying, I didn't know. We were playing a game. I had, we had some wine and then I went up to bed. That is so not self-defense. So
because he's still going to be able, he could just say she remains, look, and I'm only playing devil's advocate here. No, please. So he could still claim this was all a byproduct of her abuse, that she lied to protect herself, continued to protect herself with those stories.
She lied.
But here's the thing. When you say reasonable person in the law, all right, that has meaning. That basically says is what she did. Mm-hmm. There's this imaginary reasonable person in her shoes, reasonable. Is it something someone can understand in that situation? Who other than Sarah Boone in the world could understand that situation?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you're playing devil's advocate, but a lot of people being abused or right. And Sue, I did not.
Saying they're trying to get that statement out, saying Miranda wasn't properly given. That statement, though, she'd given that statement repeatedly. It was part of her defense, so it's going to find its way in there. And I don't think the judge isn't tossing that statement.
I want to show you this video because I know Jarrett doesn't pay attention to social media or anything like this, but you are going to love this. I saved this to play during our show. Chat, you most likely have seen this. Phil posted this on Twitter. Hold on. I'm going to put Phil's Twitter up for a minute before I get the video. Hold on. Here we go.
What do you do while you're just hanging at the mall, Sarah?
Hold on, wait, let me rewind this.
Your partner there, Sarah, likes to hang out at the mall. Now, what do you do while you're just hanging at the mall, Sarah?
Nick Arcade.
Well, check out guys and spend money.
Check out the dudes and spend the cash. Your cash or like parents' cash?
Mine.
Yeah.
That's her?
Yes.
First of all, who found that?
I don't know. Did Phil Boss find it? I don't know, you guys. Phil might be the original, but wait. Slices
when I
something.
click on a particular file, there's a file inside of a file inside of a file. So when I try to open one of the files, all these different icons come up. So if I try to click on one, it says unavailable. So I keep trying to go to the next one, the next one, and the next one, but they're all the same format, so I can't open any of those.
Not enough time. Listen, you played a great game. Time ticked a little too much. Okay, Sarah, we're going to have to take the 50 points away. You're down to 150. You're still in the lead, but control is now.
You're actually one of the.
Yeah, I don't know who put that on at the beginning.
Wow. How they found that is beyond me, but
I know. It's amazing. It literally, I think I watched it 20 times the first day. I was like, this is so funny. I don't know why.
Let me say this. I think Sarah finally found her lawyer.
You think so?
Yeah. I
you
mean,
think they're
just watching her. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I give the guy credit because he was responding to her ad, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think, look, the proper defense to this thing is looking at everything, how it's played out, assuming those statements are coming in. You would say this is someone, and again, I don't know the entirety of the situation, and no one really does, that he was beating her or something, and this was the consequence of that. I don't know that that would even carry the day on a linear presentation, but the way they're going about it, I don't see it working.
Yeah, that video, I mean, it made me a little sad too. It was like, oh, she, she was so bubbly and cute and I guess I don't know if I want to say innocent, but she just seemed so, I don't know. I don't necessarily know how much she's changed in the sense that she hasn't really grown up. She does still seem childlike in a way, and I don't know if that's an act or whatever. But, we'll find out. I'm hoping that her trial is still set to start
And
October 2nd.
she's done stupid things, but she's no dummy. I mean, I've said it before. I've encountered people like Sarah Boone. They are brutal to deal with. As a defendant, they will drive you bananas. Believe me. Like, it's just run on ruminating thoughts and brilliant thoughts coupled with just idiocy. I mean, it's just it's a hamster wheel of nuts. You know what I mean? It's just
Yep. No, definitely. Well, I guess we'll wait and see, and we'll follow that. We'll try to do another episode if anything big happens. But I also wanted to get to this today, Jarrett. I know that you love it so much.
This is good news. This is good news. I was happy with this news.
Wait, you were happy with this?
Yes. Because I think somebody is going to actually take a hard look at this case and present it the way it should be presented.
Wow. Okay. So that's so interesting. So tell me, what do you think about the new special prosecutor appointed to pursue? And who is he?
It says Morsi looked at this and said, it would be insane to go about this the way we went about it before. We are lucky that we didn't have a mistrial or that she wasn't acquitted. I'm sorry, that there wasn't an acquittal.
Yes.
We're getting a second bite at the apple. Let's go at this a different way. And the way they're doing it is they took Lally out of the picture. And
he's still there. He'll be second chair probably.
But again, you bring in a special prosecutor who's going to be the architect of this second prosecution.
Yes.
And that's big. I mean, because it's saying we're going to go about this a different way. The way I would have pursued this case, I've said it before, she was overcharged.
Yes.
I believe she hit him with that car, never thinking he was going to die, and took off. That's what happened.
So do you think, Jarrett, that with Hank Brennan, who we didn't discuss, but he famously defended Whitey Bulger, do you think that he will say before January 27th, we're going to dismiss the two charges and just go for manslaughter? Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't know that he has the authority to do that. I think he was brought in as the prosecutor to prosecute the case, but ultimately I think it's not a special prosecutor in the sense of the federal government brought in Robert Mueller or somebody like that. He's just brought in as a special designated lawyer to prosecute this case. Morsi would still be
money,
the one.
Jarrett, doesn't it?
What's
it
that?
costs the taxpayer.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying Morsi is not. I think Morsi still has to make the call on whether or not the case goes forward. I mean, unless he's a special prosecutor of the state for the sole reason to prosecute this case, not to kick it. If he believes it needs to be kicked, he could make that recommendation to Morsi, and that would factor into his decision. But he wasn't congressionally appointed as a special prosecutor.
Right. Okay. Well, so speaking of, that her attorneys basically filed a motion with the Supreme Court to appeal Judge Canoni's decision. And I know a lot of lawyers who have said that's not going to matter. It's nothing. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah, because again, we're dealing with that jury issue. It was declared a mistrial. I think that's it's going to remain that.
And guys in the chat, you can help me remember, but what case is going on right now where the judge is having meetings with jurors? It's like there's so many, I can't even think of it off the top of my head. But a lot of people were wondering, well, I don't understand. Why didn't Canoni do this too? If there were issues with the jurors and they want to be heard, why not hold meetings with them to really, be completely fair and impartial. Thank you, Benefield. That's what it is. So Benefield, there's some issues, Jarrett, and I think something's going to happen in October or November, but they were saying that Ashley Benefield, one of the jurors, had a cell phone or something. And yeah, so now the judge is having meetings with all, but like still it's, thanks guys. That is funny. Benefields. Now we're getting all confused. But yeah, I think people are wondering, why is Karen Reed so different? And, we had talked about the David Swift or Karen Swift, how the judge read each charge that the jury was hung on and what they weren't hung on. Why is this so different? It's interesting.
Well, and Murdaugh too. I mean, that's the other thing, is that
Right.
issue, which that's a problem too. But anyway,
So you don't see this.
You know what's so frustrating about these jury issues? When you and anyone who's ever been a part of these big cases, even following them, you could appreciate the amount of work that goes into this. What you're seeing in that courtroom is months of rigorous physical training, preparation, mental anguish. You get there and some idiot is going to screw it up from the jury. Like I mean, my God, I could accept the fact if I screw up or another lawyer screws up, we know the stakes. If a juror comes in there after being clearly told, don't read the news, don't use your phone, don't do this, and they violate it, or some clerk like in Murdaugh after they get the conviction and she writes a book, first of all, who the hell cares what the clerk saw? We all watched the case on TV.
It's true.
She could have been a potted plant in that case. But this is the shit. Everybody wants their 15 minutes, right? So you can have your whole life blown up for 6 months of preparation because some clown is acting up in that jury situation. And now we're seeing more of it. It's a problem.
Right. And, something I was thinking about with Karen Reed also, Jarrett, is they made such a big deal about the witnesses and the fact that, Turtle Boy wasn't allowed in the courtroom for certain witnesses, and that Morrissey went as far to do a statement or I forget when it was, maybe back in May of 2024, saying these witnesses are not the ones on trial, yada, yada, yada. Well, why don't they, I guess, make a ruling to diminish some of that defense evidence or something? And I guess I don't mean all of the evidence, right? But they could make some, if this bothered them so much, couldn't they make some kind of ruling saying you're allowed to use XYZ, but you cannot bring Colin Albert into this because you can't bring up, the lawn issue or whatever, just to minimize everything or mitigate whatever they claimed was so horrible,
You mean the defense asked for that?
No, I'm talking about, why can't the state make a ruling for the second trial saying, oh, and by the way, you guys talking to the defense saying you caused such a problem for these witnesses and for the town that we're going to say you can use the conspiracy as part of the defense, but you can't go into detail about Colin Albert. You can't use any of the people that were minors.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is the DA may not like it, but that's their theory, and the information that they brought out was relevant.
I agree with you. I'm just wondering why they don't do. I guess that's just me thinking,
because it would handicap the defense. You can't do that. You can't handicap.
It's funny, Jarrett, because I actually think that she'd be fine without that. Even though it might be the truth, but between an accident reconstructionist saying there's no way he was hit by a car.
But here's the thing, Lauren. She may be fine without it, but you can't inhibit her ability to make that decision on her own and strategically make that decision. She can't be barred from the panoply of options that there's so many issues with this case. You can't say, oh, Karen, the state wants you to use your 4 best issues for our case and not bring up that 5th one. It's like,
but they did
no,
that.
They want to fire all shots.
The Menendez brothers, they said you can't use your. So I guess I'm wondering if it was such a big deal and it why. I don't know.
That ruling was wrong in Menendez.
Wrong, totally wrong. I agree. But I think it just got me thinking is that the state was just making such a big deal about everything that I was like, well,
there was another case where they were just in the Delphi case, they're barred from using the occult.
Right.
Which again, I thought, like, my opinion, bring it in. I'd be like, it's my opinion is this. Now they brought an expert, and I think the judge ruled it was essentially junk science, or they didn't recognize the expertise or the connection between Richard Allen.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, and he's reserving ruling that if it becomes relevant, he can reconsider that, and the defense could ask. But my style has been, and the style of the colleagues I've worked with, and has been, bring whatever defense you want to what we're bringing in. I try not to kneecap the defense, because that's another claim they can make down the road. We're always cognizant. Yes, you want to get the conviction, but you got to be cognizant of what good is a conviction if it's good 2 years from now, you're going to be like, here we go again.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy, and believe me, it happens. So you have to do it right. You can't just, like, if somebody has a legitimate defense, and I use the term legitimate loosely.
Yeah.
Look, let them, and then it's your job to argue to the jury. This is complete nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Totally. No, I agree. I was just wondering and putting it out there. And then just really quickly, I know, Jarrett, you probably have to get going to travel to the city, but I wanted to play this. I put this on Twitter last night, and it really stuck with me. This is just closing out on Diddy really quick, who, by the way, is remanded still without bail at MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. His lawyer has filed a motion. They filed a motion on Monday to see if he could switch jails to a facility in New Jersey that's a bit safer. We don't know what the decision on that's going to be, but I'm guessing it's going to be a no, because he doesn't get special privileges. But I saw this on Twitter. It's a TikTok, and it made a lot of sense to me. Again, this is complete speculation. There is no proof to any truth behind this, but I just want you guys to take a listen. Okay.
GHB. Who has 1,000? It's not baby oil. It's GHB. Who has 1,000 bottles of baby oil? If baby oil was such a big part of all these parties and all the things that Diddy did to his victims, some celebrities would have made a joke about it here and there. We would have heard about it. Especially Chrissy Teigen couldn't be paid to shut her mouth. That bitch would have cracked a joke about it, for sure. I just watched this man's TikTok about how it's not a baby oil. It has to be laced with drugs. So as I'm reading the comments, someone said, that's why Jaguar Wright said in one of her interviews at the end, she said, blink twice. Blink Twice was a movie with Channing Tatum. He would spray perfume onto women who would make them forget everything. So then somebody else in the comments said, yeah, and GHB is slippery. So I look up, what is it called on the street? Look at the last one, liquid ecstasy. Side effects that include seizures and comas. It was taken off the shelves or something in like the 60s. What is GHB used for in bodybuilding? Performance enhancement additive. What are the positive side effects of GHB? Feelings of euphoria. What is GHB for parents? Usually available as a clear liquid. It's not baby oil. It just makes sense, because why would the feds confiscate fucking baby oil? And how do you get so many people to comply besides money? You drug them.
So I thought that was interesting. And I think that we will soon find out. I don't know when, but right? It is weird. 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
There are. Here's. Let me just say this. And again, anything's possible. What do I know about that? But he's charged with possession with intent to deliver narcotics. If they've tested that baby oil,
he's not.
Yes. Oh no, he is not the baby oil. But I'm saying, if this was deemed to be a narcotic, that would be added and as an additional RICO charge. So I don't know why they try to hide that. It supports their case. If it's not baby oil and it's drugs, it's another RICO predicate. So
this would fall under the RICO charge.
And if it's being used as a lubricant in the freak offs, I mean, added benefit. You know, not only is it a drug, it could be used in the session. So to
But
me,
Jarrett, I'm wondering,
there's no
you're
reason to
saying
hide that. There'd be
you're
no
saying
reason.
this wouldn't be, let's say it is GHB. You're saying this couldn't be a part of the current RICO charge. The RICO
No,
charge is
it
count
would
one.
be. Why wouldn't the government pursue that? Why wouldn't they have that tested?
No,
and
but I'm
pursued?
saying maybe it is. It's part of the RICO charge, and they just haven't told the public yet. No?
Well, they say it's 1,000 bottles of baby oil in the affidavit. So I just think, you know, they'd be taking a counter position to their own affidavit. So
Okay, so
it's
you
an
don't think
interesting theory. Like I'm saying, I don't see
Yeah.
why the government wouldn't just say that is what it is. If in fact,
I don't know either. I have no idea. I did find it interesting, and it matches all of the, I guess, the MO from every.
because that would be a lot of if that's true, it's
Yeah.
a lot of GHB, and it's another hefty charge on him, and that one's easy. I mean,
Yeah.
possession is 9/10 of the law. That
You're
one,
right.
you got.
You're so right. Okay, that's interesting. I guess I will take my tinfoil hat off now.
Hey, listen,
Fine.
that's not, but it's thought provoking. Who am I
Yes.
to argue?
No, it is. It's thought provoking. Well, this was great today. I don't want to say I had a good time because it sounds horrible to say that I had a good time, but I did. I feel much clearer on some of the Banfield stuff and the au pair stuff. And like I said, that is just such a bizarre case that I can't help but just look forward to the trial to learn more. And clear Christine's name. I really want her name cleared here. That's very important to me.
Let's
So
hope that's the case.
yeah, I exactly. All right, guys. So thanks for listening and watching. And Jarrett and I will be back next week, which will be great. I think we might have a pre-record next week because we have a special guest, but we'll do another live stream at a different time just to make sure we go live at least once. So, all right. Well, Jarrett, get to New York City safely, and I will see you later or tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lauren. See you
Yeah.
soon. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. I'm gonna close us out with our show song.
happening. You're trying to figure out ultimately what